shot comes in, stretches, and hits the back of the net.
There's a shot and a goal.
Chatterton to Burns. It's a third, and the Broncos are running rampant.
Boise State at the peak of the Mountain West Conference for women's soccer.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of From the Spot. If you're checking us out on YouTube this week, things probably look a little bit different, and that's because Jim's not here. He's on his way to BYU, to Provo, to take on the BYU Cougars. Jim, we appreciate you still taking the time to get on From the Spot here, but I guess that kind of leads almost right into the first point, which is in season, every week is a little different. There's never really a normal, and you kind of have to deal with a new normal like we're doing right now. So just from last week to this week to next week, how do you kind of try to balance all that here in the middle of the season?
Well, that's what makes it fun, isn't it? You get a new challenge each week, you get a new set of circumstances and points of adversity for you and your squad and your staff to overcome. And I think that's why I love coaching. You never quite know what's around the corner, but being the staff we are, we're forward thinkers, and we like to plan far ahead and make sure that we're on top of putting our players in the best position they can to win. So the trick is to see the challenges ahead in some form of sequence where you continually progress your players upward and towards their best performances as we get close to conference play. So this is going to be our first time playing 2 games in a weekend, but they're one game further apart than normal. And obviously we're playing on the road against a tough an opponent as we'll see all year, in probably the most raucous environment that some of these kids will play in their entire career. So it's going to be quite the week.
It certainly will be quite the week. And like you said, it's a 2-game week. So you're on the road at BYU tomorrow or today when this podcast comes out, as we record it on a Tuesday. And then you're going to be back at home against Idaho on Sunday. And you talk about playing BYU and going down there, the environment in Provo. You were just at UC Riverside, and we'll get into that game in a little bit, but that environment in Provo where Utah State has just gone in, one of your main rivals in the Mountain West this year, has just gone in and beaten BYU this season. They're looking for revenge against the Mountain West squad, and it's your team, that's the next up. You're trying to carry that mantra for the Mountain West as well. So just what do you expect? Are you going to see from the fans, from BYU? It should be a crazy, kind of near state rivalry almost.
No doubt. Manny's got Utah State off the start of his life. I mean, it's unbelievable watching them play. They're so competitive, so committed. It wasn't really a surprise that they won the game. They've beaten them the last 2, now 3 times, I believe, in a row. So they're doing a fantastic job of managing, playing in that environment. And this is why we go, so our players can learn those same things and be ready for that should we make the NCAA tournament or play in the conference final. Those kind of environments are very similar to what we'll see tomorrow night. But they know about it. This is a BYU team that's in transition. They graduated their entire squad, it seems like, and it's arguably the best ever BYU team. So this is normal for us in this business that you go through these cycles from having age, experience, and preparedness to young and upcoming, but lacking some of that. As a result, the schedule has prevented them from getting the wins that would give them confidence. And I think you see this wounded animal now, this unbelievably talented but young, and now somewhat irked, chip on their shoulder group. So we expect to see everything they've got. And I don't know how many times they've lost, 3 out of the first 4 games they played. So this is going to be quite the coming together. And there was an interesting dynamic that went on in the Utah State game as well. There was a football game going on at the same time. So before half, the place was half empty. And I think that's what made it so impressive for what Manny did, because by halftime, that football game was over. And the stands filled up to full capacity, and the environment completely changed. And the Aggies kept themselves together. So for us, we're going to be asking a similar thing of our girls to make sure, regardless of how things flow throughout the 90-minute exchange, that we really stay focused on what it is we're trying to achieve and make sure we come away with a positive result.
And you talk about, halftime and making changes and what you think at halftime. That's kind of a perfect segue to last week down at Riverside.
We're getting good at this, aren't we, mate? We just kind of segue our way through the questions quite nicely. We're doing all right.
You just set me up and I knock it out of the park. That's kind of how that's how I try to do it here.
Good team.
So down 5 years of working together kind of helps with that for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Down at Riverside though, 0-0. Going into the half, 45 minutes of both teams really trying to figure out what was going on in that game, and then you come out and your squad in the second half and you just grab the game and you steer it in the Boise State direction. I mean, 4 goals, 2 from Avery McBride, who just won Mountain West Offensive Player of the Week. When you talk about making halftime adjustments, I mean, that game at the half, you didn't really know what was going to happen in the next 45 minutes. But the way that your team responded, the way that you challenged Riverside and took the game from them, that had to be very exciting to watch down there unfold in person.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that varies greatly, right? You never know what your team are going to need from you at halftime, because you really don't know how that first 45-minute exchange is going to go. And sometimes it's a small detail. Sometimes it's, you being the rock when they're a little bit shaky. Let them know it's going to be okay. You're walking the right path, or keep doing what you're doing. Other times there are tactical components that if you make a few adjustments to who is where, when, then that can change the tide in your favour. But I think with all of those kind of halftime adjustments, one thing's got to be in place, and it's the primary thing for me, regardless of what's actually going on in the game, is whether our squad is representing who they are. And if we lose our identity in any of these points of competition, then it's important for us, above anything else, to make sure that we re-establish that identity and then figure out what it is. So, it's not a bad comparison to what's going to happen tomorrow night. You've got a team in BYU that are still trying to find their new identity in this new era after losing all of these storied players. Or for us, we're trying to progress from a team that was semi-finalist and lost in overtime to something that's going to be a championship team. And a lot of that is within the identity of the group. And that was not apparent in the first 45 minutes against Riverside. We got lulled into a very slow-paced game. It was very warm. It was on turf. They played a low block that enabled us to have possession of the ball in our own half with relative ease. And we just kind of sat there and did nothing. And in those games, you invariably give up 1 or 2 chances and game-changing goals. And we did that. Thankfully, Kate Slocum got us out of those moments. But, it's imperative that we go into any of these situations to make sure that we are forward in our thinking. We're a progressive, pressing, penetrative style team. And if we're slowing the game down, it's just not in the betterment of the athletes that we have. So I think that's really what we talked about more than anything at halftime. There wasn't any yelling and screaming. No one was really upset. It was just, that's not us. This is who we are. This is how we're going to do it. So let's get back to these core things that represent who we are, and make sure that they're established within the game. And then we can make some in second half adjustments if need be. And the reality is, with what we have, it's going to be very difficult for any team to keep up with us from a power and speed perspective if we make the game and make the interaction about power and speed. That's why we counter-attack the way we do. It's why we press the way we do, because we want the terms of engagement to go that way. And in the second half, it came flying out the gate. And it was a little bit out of control for about 90 seconds, and then they just locked right in. And it seemed like we could score seven goals in the second half, and getting 4. I don't think I've ever done that before as a coach. So it was a really, really impressive response for them, and it showcases the talent they have and the ability to score goals, but it's always relevant to their identity. So that's been the theme for us in preparation for this. When you're going to go into an environment like we're going into, it's pretty easy to lose yourself. So a good timely lesson for us to make sure our performances represent who we are. And
when you find out who you are, we talked to beginning of the season when we had our very first episode. In preseason training, you were still trying to find out how the pieces of this puzzle all fit together, and I know you're still doing that because it's still non-conference. It's still very early into the season, but a couple of the people that we talked about have some new faces that would really probably make a splash impact this year that Boise State fans hadn't really seen. Jillian Anderson, a true freshman, and then Avery McBride, who's been here for a couple of seasons but has been kept on the sidelines for this, that, and the other thing in terms of injuries. So to see Jillian get her first career goal in that second half, and then Avery pop up with a brace, again, just kind of a testament of the talent on this team, on this roster is there, and it's just about how you apply yourself in the game.
Yeah, I think Jillian's going to get a lot better. She's still acclimating to the pace and the role and responsibility within the game. But she has a really unique idea for how to play penetrative passes and how to create shooting opportunities for herself. And we're seeing her range expand every training session and every match. I mean, that goal she scored was having her as the highest central attacker. I mean, we haven't seen that yet, but she's an incredibly fit, athletic kid that can cover an inordinate amount of ground. But we've tended to see her a little bit lower underneath the strikers. She's been so effective there that it's enabled us to move Morgan Bador back to her more traditional spot, which is a six, and in a playmaking role. And that enables us to move Sophie back into her more accustomed role, which is on the bank of 10 on the side of it. So it's been really impressive. And if Jill can stay healthy and she can keep herself from wearing out mentally and emotionally, she's got such a high IQ, she's going to really start applying more of her abilities in the games. And we'll get more used to using her. But we're still kind of working through that, as you said. Avery, we've known what Avery is for years. Avery is the most powerful athlete we've had within our squad for a number of years. She's been so in battle with her journey and such an amazing person to show such resiliency. And to go through it twice with so little to hold on to. She's shown such strength in her character. I'm so happy to see her out in the park. Her starting these matches is earned. She has been superb in training camp. Was really, really good in the spring. We chose to not play her there just to give her the extra few months in really rubber stamping that recovery. But her pace and her power really complement Carly. They become running mates where it's almost like if you're going to be that fast and that powerful, I'm going to try and one-up you. And I think as they've gotten into playing more together, you can see that Avery really wants to be the lead striker a little higher up the park, and Carly, who loves to run beyond the back line, is now operating a little bit lower where she gets the ball at her feet and starting to carry the ball a little bit more. So now we're getting some dynamic. And the more they can play together, the more you'll start to see those two interact with Jillian, and Jillian be supplied by Bador. So we have a lot of relationships to still build, but I think the footprint's there for a really, really exciting attack. And one that's maybe got a little more pace and a little more directness than last year, but a little more diversity coming off the bench with people like Anaya Cutler and Desiree Foster that really give us different styles of play. And while we had Asia last year, we still have her. She's still playing very well. We have Sophie Avalos coming in and really giving us a unique, different facet as well. So there's a lot of faces there. Sophie Schmeltz, I mean, the list goes on. Sophie Schmeltz really popped on to the scene over the last week or two and showcasing some of her dribbling ability, which marries superbly well with Cindy Connor and Olivia Collins. So we're really deep in that area again. And I think when you have that, it tends to take a little longer for the whole rhythm of it to settle in. Who's going to start with whom, in what situation, and what do we sub into in what situation? How do we most effectively use all of this talent? So that's still going to take some time to figure out.
Certainly you have the blueprint, and it's just about finding out how everything goes together and the relationships and the wiring and all of those things. And we talked a little bit about going down to BYU and what the atmosphere is going to be like in the crowd. Tactically, in this match, they are one of the premier programs going through a bit of a rebuild, but in the country, I mean, as it stands right now, they're still number 16 in the country. That probably isn't going to last based on the results that they've had recently, but, going into this game tomorrow or today, however you want to look at it, this is a team that perennially gets to the NCAA College Cup, competes in the NCAA College Cup, hosts a first-round tournament game. So what are some of the things that they are going to do that you need to have an answer for as soon as you step onto the pitch tomorrow?
If you don't meet them in the middle of the ring, then it's going to be a long night for you. We've been playing this team now on and off for the last few years, and that's been the consistent, regardless of what iteration it is of them. There's something that I admire greatly about what Jen, the head coach there, and that program has embodied over the last couple of decades. There's a truth to competing that kind of lays you bare. You have to stand in front of your opponent and challenge yourself against them. And they do that, and they require that of you, unlike really any other program, maybe a handful of others. They're very, very strong, very, very competitive, very aggressive, and they will come at you and require you to stop them. This is very, very much like what we are when we represent our truest of identity. So you're going to get these two forces meeting in the middle of the pitch, and I think it's going to make quite a combative game. You throw in their scenario, in a little bit of the wounded beast, as coming in red hot, 3-0, 9 goals in 3 games, feeling really good about ourselves. You've got two really, really forceful teams that are going to get after it, who both play essentially the same system, slightly different derivative of it, and obviously some slightly different personnel that changes how that system plays out. But numerically, it's not going to be one where you see a huge advantage in one area versus another. So all of that kind of weighs out to make it more of a head-on collision in the way that the game's going to go. And I think more than anything, we're excited to see what that looks like. You know, Riverside are a well-organized team that played a unique system. They were fortunate enough to get a great win against a UNLV team over the weekend after us. They're a little complex to break down because of their system and the numerical advantages it gives them. But they did not have what it took to stand up to us when we became the forceful nature that we are. BYU perennially have. So this will be a really good litmus test for how overpowering we can actually become. You throw in that environment, who this team is, and the pitch and the location and everything that goes into playing there. No one's going to be lacking for motivation or an adrenaline pump for it. So I think we're going to see a really good version of ourselves and be able to figure out how big we can actually, or how far we can go, maybe through the Mount West Conference and into the NCAA tournament.
It should be quite the fight, and I want to get one last question in here. Talking about the UC Riverside game, posted your first shutout of the season. That is
Try not to, though. Jen went a little wild and crazy there at the end. Just trying to throw that away, but yeah, we got it.
You did get it. That's usually, I mean, the stat goes to the goalkeeper. It goes for the entire defense, though. Everyone has to participate in it, but it just kind of the stat does go to Genevieve Crenshaw for a shutout, and you know she's broken the record for career shutout. She's one of the best you've ever had here, and yet sometimes I feel like, at least me personally, on the broadcast and on the podcast, maybe I even just underappreciate how great she is because I've seen her do it for so long. But she's the type of player that, against BYU, and when you have 2 games in a week, she's the type of goalkeeper that can single-handedly, you know, make a couple of saves that change a loss to a draw to a win, those type of things. So just, you know, in her senior season, with the experience that she's amassed, with what she knows about reading the game, the way she distributes the ball for you, just, you know, to get that first shutout and then to kind of build some momentum on that, how big do you think that's going to be for her season here this year?
I think it'll be big, but I do think when you get old, those little things like that tend to have a little less impact, you know. Jen knows she's very good, and our backline know that they're very accomplished, and shutouts are always going to come. We're 3 games in now with 2 goals given up within those 3 games, so we're under a goal a game, and that's always the challenge for us is to make sure we're below 1 goal given up a game, and we want to be above 2 goals scored per game. And our statistics for whenever we score 2 goals in a game are pretty devastating. So it's a formula that we've been refining now for a couple of years. Jen's the best goalkeeper I've ever coached, so that shouldn't be minced in words in any way, shape, or form. I was fortunate enough to work with absolutely outstanding youth national team goalkeepers at Washington, some guys that went on to play pro, and Jen's better than all of those guys. She's the best distributor of the ball in that position I've ever seen. She's one of the best distributors of the ball I've seen, period. And her ability now from working with Liz for the last 4 years to really try and be more every year has resulted in her being an elite cross claimer, a superb 1v1 goalkeeper as well as a shot stopper. She's superb at back to bar, protecting the crossbar. There's really not a facet of it technically that she's not elite in. And when you factor that in with her athleticism, motivation, leadership ability, she's a full package. The kid's a straight pro. And she's easily the best goalkeeper that I've had the fortune to coach. And I think when you have that kind of ability and standard for yourself, you want it to be tested against the best opponents. So I know Jen's super excited for the opportunity to test herself against a team as talented as BYU, and I think that goes to the other leaders on our team as well. Charlie's a vicious competitor, and she wants to play this game. She wants to score in this game because that's her responsibility for her team. She believes in herself to do that. I think we have a lot of those kind of players walking around that really, truly believe in their abilities and want to test those abilities against the best in the best situation. That'll be what we all get the chance to do. Me as a coach against Jen Rockwood. The lady's about as accomplished a coach as there is in the country, and I get to test myself against her. It's the same for all of us. So we're super excited.
It takes a team. You know, everyone's got to pull their weight. They got to do their job, and in the end, you hope that everyone doing their job correctly creates an outcome that you're looking forward to. And so we look forward to watching this game tomorrow night. For anyone who's listening, you can catch it on ESPN Plus on the Big 12 Network. And then when Boise State comes home on Sunday, we'd love to have you out at the Boaz Soccer Complex. If you can't make it in town for whatever reason, that'll be on the Mountain West Network. So that's how people can watch this week. Jim, we appreciate you taking the time. We've always pushed the boundaries here over the past 5 years with you and me together. So to do the first phone podcast on the road, always a pleasure, sir.
My pleasure, and thank you for all you do for us, man. You will be sorely missed when you move on. So thank you so much for making us a little bit more classy every day.
Well, thank you, Jim. We appreciate your time, and we will see you all next week for another episode of From the Spot.